Lewis Hamilton is a 7-time world champion. Seems surreal to say it, but he did it with probably one of the drives of his career. Before we go into the race review, make sure you visit the RaceWeek site at raceweekblog.com. Follow us on Twitter at raceweek_show. And make sure you leave a like, comment and subscribe to this YouTube channel for more RaceWeek content. Without further ado, let's go in to the race review. So, we finally got a wet race that we'd all been craving since the start of the year. And how many times really this was our last chance for a wet race. Face it, it's not going to rain in Bahrain or Abu Dhabi, is it? And so many times that we have felt cheated out of a wet race, where it's basically been as if the F1 track's been in the eye of every rainstorm that gets close to a Formula 1 track. But the race got underway. Everyone was on the full wet tyres. Stroll got away incredibly well. Whilst it seems that the left-hand side of the grid, which included Max Verstappen, did not get off the line as well. Verstappen dropped back down the order. However, it got a lot worse. There was a bit of drama at the first corner. The two Renaults made contact at turn 1, with Ocon being sent round, and then Valtteri Bottas, in avoidance, lost it, and then that was basically the start of a very bad day for Valtteri Bottas. Lewis Hamilton was up to 4th, but he went wide and lost out to Vettel and both the Red Bulls. Sebastian Vettel had made a great start and was up into 3rd place, whilst it was a 2 racing points, so in command. In the first round of pit stops, Charles Leclerc was the first to come in, because around 10 laps in, it was time to go to the intermediate tyres. It wasn't really raining that much during the race, but the intermediate tyres were necessary quite quickly. Whilst Lance Stroll held the lead, Max Verstappen actually managed to overcut Sebastian Vettel, and then even set about catching Sergio Perez, but then he had quite a dramatic spin heading into the fast kink at turn 11, which dropped him down to 6th. It was quite an aggressive move, and it was quite a needlessly aggressive move as well for Verstappen. When it happened, I thought we were about to see one of Verstappen's trademark saves, but we didn't. He didn't quite manage to save it from going round multiple times, and he dropped down to 6th. But Alex Albon was now the lead Red Bull, and he was now posing a threat to the Racing Point cars. But he then lost it as well, which dropped him behind Hamilton. Then there was the second round of pit stops, where the likes of Stroll, Vettel and everyone else came into the pits for another set of intermediates. There was a lot of deliberation as to whether the slicks was going to be good, it was going to be enough. However, the teams decided that it was too much risk, to go for the slick tyres. Whilst at the front, Perez and Hamilton were staying out. And here, as you can see, Lewis Hamilton managing to get past Sergio Perez as DRS gets re-enabled. But many were expecting Hamilton and Perez to pit in. But they didn't. In the end, they were going to try to nurse these tyres to the end. The thing about the Mercedes, they did not have the pace in normal conditions. But once the intermediate tyres had worn down to basically what becoming slicks, then Lewis found some pace. And Mercedes really crafted this it really was a masterclass from Mercedes. It was disappointment for Lance Stroll as after the second round of pit stops, he dropped down the order. It was quite sad to see, having driven so well up until then. However, I still think that he has acquitted himself very well and shown himself to be capable of fighting at the front. If you give him a championship-winning car, I think he will make use of it. Charles Leclerc was now on the move, first passing Max Verstappen, and then he passed Sebastian Vettel. Max Verstappen would have another spin when seeing Kimi Raikkonen have a spin ahead. He did make a few mistakes. And then in the closing laps, there was a threat of rain, and had that rain came down on the final lap, it would have probably messed up a lot of the work that Lewis had done. Because the tyres in that state, I don't think, would have handled it. But the rain did not come, and Lewis Hamilton crossed the line to become a 7-time Formula 1 World Champion. Whilst there was drama in the battle for second, as Charles Leclerc, who'd done so well to get up to third, had his sights set on Perez's second place, but he overcooked it at turn 12, and that allowed Sebastian Vettel through into the final podium position, taking his first podium of the season, whilst Sergio Perez takes his first podium since 2018, once again proving to be really good at conserving tyres. So, taking a look at the race result, and Lewis Hamilton it is who took the race victory ahead of Sergio Perez in second place. Sebastian Vettel finished in third ahead of Charles Leclerc in fourth, Carlos Sainz in fifth, and Max Verstappen in sixth. Alex Albon finished in seventh. Disappointing race for Red Bull. Then it was Lando Norris in eighth, Lance Stroll in ninth, and Daniel Ricciardo in 10th. Valtteri Bottas had multiple spins throughout the race and finished outside the points. He kind of had a day like Felipe Massa at Silverstone 2008, it can be said. So a very bad day for Valtteri Bottas. So now it is time to do a team-by-team review of today's Grand Prix in reverse constructors order. There were points in the race. It did look like George Russell could get into the points, but it wasn't to be in the end, whilst Nicholas Latifi retired from the race late on. A double retirement for Haas and another issue in the pit lane, which obviously people are talking about quite a lot considering their history of those sorts of mistakes. It can be said quite a bad day for Haas. After their strong qualifying, things did not come together in the race. Antonio Giovinazzi was the first retirement of the race, and Kimi Raikkonen fell back through the field. So a disappointing day for Alfa Romeo after such a good qualifying session. The car did not seem to suit the wet conditions as well as it does in the dry. That's basically what can be said about AlphaTauri this weekend. They did not show, neither car showed really any signs of getting into the points, and I think they will be feeling quite sad about how this race went, considering they did have some upgrades planned for this race. But they've got Bahrain coming next, and Bahrain has been a decent track for them in recent years, particularly for Pierre Gasly. It can be said it was probably Ferrari's best. It was Ferrari's best result of the season in terms of points haul. They are now on 130 points, and actually are now starting to show signs of being in that battle for third place. I mean, personally, I still think that being in this battle is quite a stretch. I mean, the likes of Renault, McLaren and Racing Point do have clearly quicker cars. But good day for Ferrari, and they have established some daylight between themselves and AlphaTauri. Disappointing day for them, 10th and 11th, having contact at the first corner, and they have dropped back in the battle for third. They have now dropped down to 5th, behind McLaren and Racing Point, and actually by quite some way as well. 18 points they are behind Racing Point. Their chances of getting third in the Constructors have taken quite a dent today. The car showed great pace in the late stage of the race, it can be said, with Carlos Sainz and Lando Norris scything their way through the field and setting up quite a few fastest laps, with Lando Norris actually having the fastest lap at the end. So, one of McLaren's better races in recent times. Lance Stroll will be disappointed that he did not translate his pole position. But second place is still a great result for them. Their best result of the season, with Sergio Perez once again a tyre masterclass. It will be a travesty if he drops off the grid for 2021. A really good day for Sergio Perez, and I think he'll be very happy with that. In other news, it can be said it was a disappointing day for Red Bull with 6th and 7th, with after both cars looked like they were in contention for a victory, but both drivers made mistakes in the end, and they finished a lowly 6th and 7th, and also the strategy did not come their way. So, not a day to remember for Red Bull. Mercedes, they lacked the pace in the wet conditions, but I think today showed how good they are as a full-on racing team with the way that they... Because this is another test of a strong team. When you have races where a team is not... where you're not the fastest, how you counter those weaknesses. And that's exactly what Mercedes did with their strategy. They accepted that they weren't going to win on pure pace, so they needed to find another way to win. And that was by coming up with that masterstroke with regards to the intermediate tyres. And as a result of that, Lewis Hamilton took quite an unlikely win and has now secured the title with one of his greatest drives. Mercedes are just simply the best team in Formula 1 at the moment. And there's no way you can hide from that fact. In the drivers' standings, it is Lewis Hamilton who obviously now has the title secured. He is now on a grand total of 307 points. The title secured with 3 races to spare. 110 points is the gap back to Valtteri Bottas, who has a 27 point gap back to Max Verstappen in third. In the battle for fourth, Sergio Perez, who scored in every race that he has started, has moved up to fourth in that ever-changing battle, ahead of Charles Leclerc in fifth and Daniel Ricciardo, who has dropped to sixth. Carlos Sainz has now moved up into seventh, ahead of Lando Norris in eighth, Alex Albon in ninth, and Pierre Gasly rounding out the top 10. Lance Stroll is just on the outskirts of the top 10, ahead of Esteban Ocon in 12th on 40 points, and Sebastian Vettel, who's now on 33 points, ahead of Danny Kvyat, Nico Hülkenberg, Kimi Räikkönen, Antonio Giovinazzi, Romain Grosjean, Kevin Magnussen, the two Williams, the only drivers yet to score. We have to now talk about Lewis Hamilton. I would say this has been his strongest year. I mean, and the bar with regards to that is very, very high. But this year, he has topped everything he's done before. He has won 10 of the 14 races that we have had so far, and he secured his 7th title with probably one of the drives of his career, and he fully deserves it. And I've said this so many times, it's just unbelievable that some people actually doubt whether he is actually a Formula 1 great, because there is absolutely there's no way you can hide from the fact that he is one of the best drivers ever to step into a racing car. I mean, you don't win 7 world titles by simply having the best car. I mean, he lapped his teammate today. He was just in another league to everyone else with regards to how he was driving that car all season. And on that note, it's now time to finish this recap. Before I finish, I've obviously got to mention the usual formalities. Make sure you visit the RaceWeek site at raceweekblog.com. Follow us on Twitter at RaceWeek_show. And make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel for more RaceWeek content. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you for the next video on the RaceWeek channel. Goodbye.